At that point, you know what? We're going to talk with that of getting into what's going to happen in 2009, 2010. This is the moment of truth. It's what we've been talking about. We're getting things in the mail. Hopefully we've already sent in our checks. We know which ones we like, but we have Rob to talk to us about what really is happening. 2009, 2010, theater.
Well, you hold up the Writers Theater pamphlet right there. I might as well start with them. Probably the most interesting production. You know, one of the things that is the outgrowth of the financial crisis is a lot of people have been wondering sort of what theaters would be programming. I'm definitely an advocate of new works, world premieres, that sort of thing, but that's hard to do when you have to, when funding is shrinking and all that stuff. So Writers Theater is doing A Streetcar Named Desire next May, which sounds at first like a safe choice, but the director that they're bringing for A Streetcar Named Desire is David Cromer, and his name is everywhere. He's got Our Town playing in New York. He's making his Broadway debut this fall, directing 2 Neil Simon plays, Brighton Beach Memoirs and Broadway Bound. Whoa. He just signed up to direct a show at Lincoln Center Theater in New York at the beginning of next year, and so now he's doing Streetcar Named Desire in Glencoe, which is fantastic because one of the things that is so Chicago is that, you know, even though, you know, David Cromer's doing 2 shows on Broadway next season, he's coming back to Glencoe to direct A Streetcar Named Desire, and that is a common thread really with a lot of theater veterans. You see William Peterson left CSI to do theater in Chicago again.
And it's currently
it just closed Blackbird at the Victory Gardens Theater, and he's doing Samuel Beckett's Endgame at Steppenwolf next season. Then you've got John Mahoney, who ever since Frasier ended has devoted his time to Chicago theater, and he is going to be at Northlight next season in a play by Hugh Leonard called A Life, which is actually a sequel to Da, which is by far his most famous play. So Mahoney's coming in to do that. Also at Northlight, you've got Clifford Odets Awake and Sing, which is probably the most famous play of the Great Depression, and I figured someone was going to do that play in this economic environment. But Amy Morton, who played one of the leads in August Osage County on Broadway, in Chicago, and then on Broadway, she's directing it. Rondi Reed, who won a Tony Award, she's going to be doing that play as well as Mike Nussbaum, who must be a superhero. He's in his mid-80s and he's still incredibly active in acting. You also have Next Theater has sort of a new direction. Next Theater always build themselves as off-Broadway in Chicago. They bring a lot of off-Broadway shows from New York. They have a new artistic director named Jason Sutherland, and he's got a couple of really interesting things coming up. One of them is a play that is having its American premiere. It is called Something in Haifa. Its world premiere in Tel Aviv. And he's bringing it here. So we're really seeing he's trying to get a more international focus. There's also a play called War with the Newts, which is a world premiere based on a Czech novel written in the 30s about giant salamanders. Something like that.
Wow, okay.
So any show called War with the Newts is fantastic.
Larry, these sound pretty interesting, don't they?
So when they bring a show here, what's the risk?
Well, I would say that one of the perils of American theater in the last 20 years is that a lot of what's come about in the last 20 years is not household. You know, because of the fact that that there's so many more media than there used to be. People's attention spans are split more than ever. You know, Eugene O'Neill's father, James O'Neill, 100 years ago said that the American theater is dying. So it's been dying for like 100 years. And so it's pretty amazing that, you know, we have sort of a risk-averse environment economically, but you know the thing is that what Chicago theaters are bringing, true, we have A Streetcar Named Desire, but David Cromer's doing it. It's like the one play that everybody knows that's coming next season.
And it has a name
behind
it, which is also going to draw people to the theater and to the Plaza project.
Well, let me ask a question real quickly here. Dorothy and Larry, do you have a theater that you might be watching that given what now Rob has just said about anything that might be for next year that you've got an eye on?
Well, I keep an eye on Northlight. And,
Okay.
It's been a staple of our family for a long time. I like the mix of drama and comedy, and particularly the fact that every year there are one or two musical presentations.
Right.
I know they did Ella last year. And it was just tremendous.
Yeah, they've got a couple of musical. I think they've got 2 or 3 musical shows next season. One which I'm most intrigued by is a show called Souvenir, which isn't so much a musical as a play with music. It's about Florence Foster Jenkins, and she was a New York socialite in the early last century who was basically the worst singer to ever play Carnegie Hall. Judy Kaye did the show on Broadway. It was it was very critically acclaimed. So that's going to be sort of like that middle portion of Citizen Kane with Susan Alexander singing.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, cool. Oh, cool.
It's going to be
Which is
good.
going to be a lot of fun. They've got a sort of a doo-wop musical coming this fall called The Marvelous One-Drutts, which will also be a lot of fun. So they do a definite nice mix of you're doing this like doo-wop musical, and then you're doing a serious Clifford
tapping
play
and
about the
listening,
Depression.
right.
So it's like you have a nice. You don't want to do the same kind of show all the time. So
Right.
putting together a season is extraordinarily challenging, and not only economically, but obviously artistically. You
Right,
really don't
right.
want to put on the same show every time, and so you want. The season, you almost want to think of the season as sort of a theatrical symphony in which you have different movements, you have different things. Sometimes theaters like to have a central theme to the whole season,
Right.
and they just tie that.
And you
up.
hope it's well attended as well. And
Oh, yeah.
Dorothy, what do you think?
No, I just wanted to say one more thing about Northlight, that Judith Ivy's Dear Abby is going to Broadway.
Oh,
and,
well,
and
oh,
I saw
right.
that, and that was just such a wonderful show. But I love Writers Theater, and they're doing that
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, Tom Stoppard.
Yeah, so Tom Stoppard play. and
Yeah.
They're doing that. And I love what they do. They have tie-ins with libraries, and they have talks all through the libraries about the plays, and so they build their audience that way. as well.
How brilliant.
Speaking of community.
Yeah,
Yes,
speaking of
absolutely.
community, how brilliant is that? Like your Beaumarchais, the two, Marriage of Figaro, and then,
I love the synergy.
the synergy of that, how
I'm
important.
fascinated by Writers Theater because even in this economy, they're looking to move to a larger venue. So I hope they keep that success going.
I think they have a very devoted core, don't you think, of subscribers? Isn't that
It's so
key?
pleasant to go there.
And it's
so
pleasant.
Yeah, just you
Pleasant.
go and you drive and park and walk in, and it's such a pretty area. Everything about it is, you're not fighting. It's
That would be true, though, of all our theaters on the North Shore. Every single one we've mentioned is
Right.
pleasant to go to.
Yes.
The parking's free.
Right.
It's
The noise,
close by.
yeah.
It's community. You're going to see
Right.
your neighbors and your friends there, too.
Terrific.
And that's a very important thing that I think makes the North Shore so unique. We're a community of individuals that really appreciate culture and the arts, and there's an interest in seeing things succeed
Oh, yes.
and become more
Yes.
more than what it is. Make it better.
Right, make it better. Absolutely. So we have an explosive year ahead of us, and I think that we can say about Chicago as being one of the more culturally fascinating cities, and with its suburbs, and I'm not sure where the exurbs or suburbs, but that it is really once. And then also with the wonderful transportation system. We ultimately have that. If all fails and the car doesn't work, chances are you can get on the train. And but I want to thank you all for being with us today. This was a most remarkable show. I think there's been a lot of synergy with our guests. Damana?
Absolutely, I agree. This has been a wonderful show, and I'm so thankful everybody was here and gave us some insight of some of the theaters and some of the events that are coming up and what makes the North Shore Theaters such an interesting destination and a place to come and see theater. And with that, we'd like to thank our guests and our people out there viewing ACES, and please come back and join us for our next segment. And with that, have a very good evening. Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Anyway,
that was
thank you.
terrific. Thank you.